Happy Sabbath, brethren. Thank you, Mr. Burton, for that warm introduction. Good to be back with all of you once again. One of my favorite trips down to Lexington. When I was 19, I had the opportunity to go to Northwest Camp out on the Oregon coast and help as activity staff. This was my first year out of being a camper, and I finally didn't have to ask anyone if I could go to the bathroom, and I was very excited about that. I got to have some more freedom, all being able to pitch in, help, get to influence other campers. It was a very exciting time for me. Now, early in camp, there was a scheduling question I had about the big activity for the night, beach games. For those of you that aren't familiar, the Northwest Camp is on the Oregon coast and it's on the beach, and so every year they would have a big night of beach games. This could include tug of war, sandcastle building contests, and a lot of other things as well. It was lunchtime on Monday, and the games were supposed to be that night. I needed to figure out who was in charge of it to make an announcement about it, so I was hunting around to figure out who was coordinating the event. I heard someone say that I should talk to Ben Storrs, for those of you that know him, and so that's what I did. I found him at the senior staff table of all the veterans that have been doing this for 20 plus years, and I was a little intimidated walking up to that table as a 19-year-old, but I went up there, and that's what I did. I asked him who was running beach games, and he pauses and gets this little twinkle in his eye and smiles and goes, "You are." Now, again, this is my first year of activity staff, and this was not in any way supposed to be my responsibility, but he wanted to test me and give me the opportunity to grow. So how do we handle it when someone takes us out of our comfort zone and puts us in a position to grow? Today, we'll go through 3 points on what it means to have a biblical growth mindset, both for ourselves and for others. So point number 1, be a grower. Be a grower. So if we're going to have a growth mindset, we have to be willing to be a grower. Do we resist growth or embrace it? We'll go over to Exodus chapter 4, verse 10. Exodus 4, verse 10. And throughout this message, we'll look through Moses' life and see his journey as he had to grow and go throughout his days. So in Exodus chapter 4, verse 10, this is preluding when Moses would go and show the miracles to Pharaoh that he was working for the one true God. And so above verse 10 is where God's giving him a couple miracles. He's like, you can reach your hand into your shirt and you'll have leprosy, and then you'll put it back in and you won't. He's giving him, here's your staff, it can be a sword, it can be a snake, and now it's not. He's giving him all the cool tricks to show that he works for the one true God. And so this has to be an exciting time, but then verse 10 comes around. Then Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." So Moses says, it's great that you're giving me all these talents and things to show that I work for you, but I'm not the guy. I'm not ready to go and talk for you. I can't do it. I'm still not there, not before you gave me these gifts or after. And so how does God respond? In verse 11, so the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say." So God says, it's okay. I know, I'm the one that created you. I know what you're capable of. You can do this. I'll work with you. It's all right. And then what does Moses say in verse 13? But he said, "O my Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send." Please literally send anybody else. I'm fine stepping away. Get anybody else to do this job. It's not me. So how does God respond there then? Does God say, well, okay, we'll throw Moses back and we'll pick someone else to enact my will? He could have. It would have been pretty easy to go find someone else to work with. But that's not what God did here. In verse 14, so the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. He wasn't really happy about this. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well. And look, he is also coming out to meet you. When he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. Now you shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. And I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I will teach you what you shall do. So he shall be your spokesman to the people, and he himself shall be as a mouth for you, and you shall be to him as God. So God is willing to work with him. He meets him where he's at. It's important, though, that Moses was first willing to serve God. Again, all of this preluding was showing that Moses was willing to work for God and work with him. So growth involves responding to God's calling, even when we feel inadequate. But then part of God's side here is showing that he's capable. So picking back up to my story from camp, when Ben Storrs looked me in the eye and said, "You are," how did I respond? I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yes." And started to give me some advice on people to talk to on how to make it work best. One of the people he connected me with was Dave Goethals. Some of you may know him as coach. And to any teen, he was mildly terrifying and known for his intensity and structure and passion. So the last person I wanted to talk to at the time. He then pulls me aside and starts laying out what I need to do, how I need to build a team around me of 4 or 5 people that I can delegate to get to help me, successes and failures of previous years, how I can make it better, all the things I needed to do to run beach games. And again, keep in mind, I was told at lunch that I'd be running the hour-long event that night. So this is a very narrow time frame of figuring this all out. But Dave Goethals and Ben Storrs both had taken the time to help me grow on this, which leads right into our second point. Be a waterer. Be a waterer. So first we have to be willing to grow, but then after we've already kind of had some of our own growth, then it's time to transition some of that to helping others. So Ben and Dave were both willing to kind of take some time to help me grow by watering. So be a waterer. We'll go over to Exodus chapter 18 now, verse 20. Exodus 18:20. And we'll fast forward in Moses' life. And now see a time when he has the opportunity to be a waterer as well. So this is the story of Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, working with him on how to delegate. At this time, Moses was the only judge. And so in verse 13, just skimming through, the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. So Moses is judging all day. He's trying to do all of this himself. And in verse 17, Moses' father-in-law said to him, the thing you do is not good. He's being told this isn't the best way to do this. But I want to focus on verse 20 through verse 22. And this is Jethro speaking to Moses. And you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them the way that they must walk, and the work they must do. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. And let them judge the people at all times. Then it will be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter that they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you, for they will bear the burden with you. So again, Jethro is watering Moses here, and Moses is taking the guidance to be a waterer himself. It's important to note that not everybody is given the same responsibility. Some are thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. Not everybody is ready to handle the same job at the same time. But again, going back to the earlier example, God met Moses where he was at. Maybe you're a 10s guy for now. Maybe you're a 50s guy, whatever that might be. But I like to think, too, it didn't just stop there. Maybe if you were really good in your 50s role, maybe then you got to be over the 100s and then over the 1000s, and you can grow into those roles. But that doesn't mean everybody starts at the top. Give to them as they are able to do. But again, this does come with the caveat that they are looking to love God themselves first. Now for Ben Storrs and Dave Goethals at camp, they both could have successfully ran beach games on their own without my help and probably done a much better job, but they chose to help me grow instead. That comes with the territory of pressing on, as Paul says. The goal was never to get me to do beach games for the next 50 years, or at least I don't think so, or to have me run the best beach games ever. It was to train me to have me handle more so I, in turn, could do the same for others. That was a clear opportunity to grow for me, but it wasn't my only one. We should not get complacent in how we've grown so far, but should keep pressing on, as Paul says. So we've talked about being a grower and being a waterer, and the third point for today is still be a grower. Still be a grower. I've heard the phrase before, coaches don't play. I don't know if any of you have heard that, but sometimes that can be used as an excuse of when you're coaching, then I don't have to be the one that steps out on the court of the field. It's not my job anymore, and I don't have to worry about it. So as we go through and we have some of that early development, when we transition to being a waterer and helping others, that doesn't mean we get to just step off the field. And the race analogy that is used commonly in the New Testament especially, we're still running our race. Even though we're encouraging people that are running with us, it's not our time to step out and say, go get them, I'm on the sideline now, I'm out, it's all you. That's not our time to do that. We still have to run our own race. We can't jog in place, we can't be stationary. We still need to run our own. We'll go over to Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 32. Deuteronomy 5, verse 32. This is after the 10 Commandments are given. And Moses is talking here, or God is talking to Moses, commanding him. Deuteronomy 5, verse 32. Therefore you shall be careful to do as the Lord your God has commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. you shall walk in all the ways which the Lord your God has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. So again, after the Ten Commandments were given, Moses is commanded to follow God and draw near to him and continue to walk that way. Continuing our walk means not stepping out of the race or jogging in place, but moving forward. So today, we went through 3 points on what it means to have a biblical growth mindset for both ourselves and for others. Sometimes we can get put into positions outside of our comfort zone to help us grow. Sometimes someone looks at us and says, "You are." How do we handle those moments? Are we in the right frame of mind, being willing to serve God first to get those opportunities to grow? And then what do we do with that growth? Do we stagnate? Do we get complacent? Or do we use what we've learned to then in turn teach others and water them? And then are we just a coach? Or do we get out and play too? We need to run our race to the finish, not just getting content watching on the sidelines or staying jogging in place. We saw that Moses had to do this too throughout his life. This was a progression. This wasn't just a one step and you're done. This is our whole life running that race, growing, watering, and still growing. So we need to continue to grow and move forward in our lives. So be a grower, be a waterer, and still be a grower.